Downwell, a curious game about a young boy falling down a well, battling enemies with gun boots, and collecting treasure and sometimes visiting shops. Downwell is a $3 game from an independent Japanese developer helped along by Devolver Digital. It's out on Android and iOS, but I bought and played this game on PC via Steam. This game is essentially an endless faller, though it does have a determinate end which comes complete with a final boss which unlocks a hard mode. As advertised, you control a small boy with guns on his feet. These guns can only shoot downwards, and their firing also helps slow your descent into the depths. Your ammunition is referred to as energy, and is limited within a given jump. You can only shoot a certain number of times before touching down on solid ground or on an enemy. This management of energy and falling speed are the core of what this game is about. You will quickly learn that while this is a game about descending a well, it is more accurately about descending a well with great care. Much the same as games like Spelunky or The Binding of Isaac, this game gives you the tools to bury yourself with overconfidence and tremendously satisfying speed. Right off the bat, the game is very charming. The style in which your character and his enemies are made and animated contrasts dramatically with the serious danger that all enemies in this game pose to you. Every enemy in the game does the same amount of damage to you, 1 precious hit point, of which you start with 4. You will be hurt only if you touch the red portions of an enemy's body, and a white section is vulnerable to being jumped on, but even something as simple as avoiding the red isn't always easy when there's so little ground to stand on and when danger comes from above. The way the game conveys its game mechanics with color is outstanding. The bright red is used to draw attention to the few items of interest in the game. The sections of enemies that will cause you pain, the gems which are your currency and simultaneously give you a power-up called Gem High if you collect enough. And lastly, red denotes the safe rooms, which could contain a number of things. It is impressive the clarity that comes from this game's 3-color limitation. Safe rooms stop time for anything outside the room, allowing the player as much time as they would like to have to take a break from the action, without having to worry about gem high waning. These safe rooms will either contain a gem lump, which is a lump of gems, or a gun modifier, which will both change how your gun boots shoot, and either heal or boost your max energy. Tying stat gains to these power-ups compels you to change weapons as you progress, rather than sticking to the weapons that you think are best. Or, lastly, a safe room could contain a shop. The shop is run by a taller, lumpier man than you, and he will equip you with additional health or ammo in exchange for your precious gems. Given the value of gems, and there being both sources of instant and delayed gratification, they are what drives you to push downward faster than you would like. They force you in certain cases to risk danger to ensure that Gem High stays alive, and that you have enough money to buy upgrades later. The game is divided into worlds, each of which is composed of 3 stages. At the end of each stage, you will receive a guaranteed upgrade. Each stage is slightly harder than the last, and in between the worlds the shopkeeper ups his prices. More importantly, each world has its own feel. The charm takes a dip in World 2, which has you fighting admittedly cute ghosts and skulls, but they make me miss Froggy and his friends. Stage 3 is underwater, compelling you to move faster in search of air bubbles. And there are more stages after this, but they get very weird and dark, or should I say red. As you play the game, you unlock different color palettes, like Luftrausers. I enjoy some more than others, and certain palettes make the game much harder to understand. You also gain access to different falling stances. These will affect how it is that you progress your character, trading shops for weapon upgrades or end-of-stage upgrades for shop discounts. All in all, I found Downwell to be a brilliantly conceived game. The design is nothing short of brilliant, having found excellent ways to make the flow of the game fast and frantic even when you're doing what's best, which is to slow down and play safe, because the safest thing you can do is make sure you are gem high and gem rich. That being said, I'm surprisingly not drawn into this game as much as I'm drawn into its design. The game's 3-button control scheme just isn't clicking with me the way that I hoped it would. The rate at which I'm having to parse information isn't what I've come to expect from an endless runner faller. And I don't want that to sound like a bad thing. It means that the game is being ambitious and asserting its ideas on how it is to be played. Unlike free-to-play entries into the genre, which tend to be easier with a slower ramp, Downwell starts vicious and stays vicious. Eventually, you learn how to get through World 1 without incidents, but not without effort, because this game is difficult. The charming art, satisfying sound, and moody music help to soothe my discomfort with this game. Ultimately, I feel like Downwell is a game worth looking at, if only for the academics of it, the way that things fit together. That being said, it's not a game that I think is very fun. Rather, I find the core gameplay mechanic of mashing the fire button to become tedious after a while. So, even with the game sitting at a $3 price tag, I'm not sure that I can recommend that you go out and buy this game, but I would certainly recommend that you have a look at what it's doing. The way that it uses color and its gems is very interesting, and I think could be learned from in very meaningful ways.